Isla Kurczynski, and I am a social work major at Ohio State in my last year here. And I also minored in women's gender and sexuality studies. And I am really interested in working in the sexual health field. And so I'm interested in doing things like sex education and stuff like that, and advocacy for sexual health stuff. I've always known that I wanted to connect with people, help people in some way.
Hi, the visitors are here for the, yeah, okay, thanks, bye-bye.
Eventually when I found social work and I learned that it was kind of more than just I don't know, child protective services and therapy, it's a lot more than that, I became really interested in it.
If her voice is on, yours is off.
All right, hello everybody. Hello. I'm interning at a children's hospital in Columbus. I travel between different schools in the area and do health education lessons with them. So it's a lot of sex ed stuff. It is puberty education I've done a whole lot of, as well as some random healthy relationship, online safety stuff.
You guys seem to have it nailed down. And the last thing here is anus. The slang word for that is just butthole. That's where we do. Do we have questions about these body parts? This is just so we know names for stuff, which can be helpful.
I think that being a queer and trans person and going into sex ed and sexual health is really important. I have gotten to connect with queer kids in that. Getting that feedback from the kids is so meaningful, and even just hearing the questions that they ask and stuff that are related to queer identities.
This is the what is a uterus one I was talking about.
It just reassures me that this is really, really meaningful stuff. And I'm able to be in there as a queer and trans person and be me too, or be yes, that's totally, just to be able to normalize and all of those things. And I think that's a really powerful thing. I definitely came into my own identity later and very much on my own. Growing up, my education that I received definitely wasn't good. It just didn't address those identities. It would have been nice to have had some of this information formatted to me in a way that was that this is that being queer or queerness is even an option. There's never any acknowledgement that gay sex is a thing, or that queer identity even just as an identity about yourself unrelated to sexual health, none of that was really talked about. Because it was never presented to me in an educational setting as a valid option, my immediate thing, knowing that that isn't really true, was just oh, I'm not normal, which I don't know, is a crazy thing to experience when nobody directly said that to me, but because it was never presented as an option. So I just feel really glad that I get to present that as a valid option to kids, and I think that's really important.
Parents on the Central Coast, some of them keeping their kids home from school today. It is part of a statewide protest against sexual education curriculum in public schools. About 24 parents gathered outside the Monterey County Board of Education last week. The state overhauled its sex ed guidance for teachers that encourages teachers to talk about gender identity with kindergarten and give advice to LGBT teens for navigating relationships and having safe
sex.
That's
a really big concern.
These parents, a group called Informed Parents of California, say the new guidelines are simply inappropriate and they sexualize young children.
A person with a vulva has 3 holes between their legs at kindergarten. They also use words like anus and vulva, which are words I didn't learn until I was in high school, and I wouldn't want my kids to learn those words.
Potential new guidelines for teaching sex education in the classroom.
Did you know your kids are being exposed to porn in school? They're just not. I'm sorry. They're arguably more likely to be exposed to porn if they aren't getting it in schools because they want to know things and then they're gonna Google it.
It's not soft porn, it's hardcore porn. It details explicitly with pornographic images, homosexual sex, lesbian sex. This book is used as a tool to create what I call mental rape in the hearts and the minds of children.
What would be the problem with just flipping it really quick at the beginning? Yeah,
It's
take a
like,
guess.
I'd already touched the penis, so
Perfect.
it's outside now.
Yes, so I taught a lesson at a high school on sex ed and like condom use, condom negotiation, like all of the typical sex ed things. And after the lesson, I had a student come up to me and just asked to talk to me like in private and stuff. And I like go to the other side of the room with this student, and he basically just like tells me like I'm transgender, I'm a guy. And so it just felt like this kind of like permission, like him kind of being like, is that okay? And it just was so meaningful to be able to like be in that room also as a trans person. Little gay books and whatnot. To know that he had that comfort level and was able to see something in me teaching that day that felt safe to ask that question and to just be like, is that okay? Like, what does this stuff mean for me? Does this lesson that you were just teaching apply to me? All of these things. I just got to be like, I'm trans too, and like just be there for him in that way. Like you could just see kind of like this relief, and it was really awesome because I wouldn't have even known to express that. Like these kids are so smart and so like in tune with themselves and their queerness in a way that I like wasn't able to be or didn't have the knowledge to be. Like, they just feel really comfortable saying all these random things to you, and it like that level of comfort that we see even in like anonymous questions, seeing the questions that they ask.
Boys allowed to have sexual contact with a girl. It's so sweet, it's cute.
Really reaffirms that they need this education and that like it means something to them. Social work is really important, not because we're experts of anybody's lives, but because we're very much the opposite of that in some ways. Social work isn't really any one thing. It's the ability to listen to people and just work with them. Social workers have written within our code of ethics this responsibility to advocate for social justice. We have this thing that we say that's just like the client is the expert of their own lives. That's why social work is so important, because it's about just addressing people's needs that they're already asking for. So if people are having other ideas about what social work is or thinking it's not valuable, I just would refute that, because simply like it's meeting a need that somebody's already asking for. And so if we're able to do that, I think that like we can make a lot of progress. So. Yay! That was so good. Thank you.